One of the most frequently asked questions for Vedic astrologers is, should I get a job for myself or should I start my own business? Or people that have been employed and working for other people, they want to start their own business and they want advice about what to do in their careers, whether they should quit their job and start their own business, own consulting firm, or do it as a side business. So I hope this video helps those individuals. I get these questions very frequently, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. I think most Vedic astrologers have been asked this question, that what is a good career for me? Is it working for other people, working in a company, being employed, and then getting a salary at the end, or should people venture into starting their own business? All right. So I hope you have your Vedic charts up so that we can talk about certain houses and certain placement of planets and see if we can give you some guidance on this video. So what we will look at first, and the most important planet for your profession, that is Saturn. All right. Saturn is the original lord for the 10th house in the Kalpurush Kundali. Kalpurush Kundali is nothing but the Aries ascendant. All right. Where the house and the signs are all the same. So which makes the Aries ascendant charts the easiest charts to read. Because the 10th house is Capricorn. The first house is Aries. Right. And so on. I will try to give an example later on. I will try to pull up maybe a Scorpio or a Leo chart and discuss these planetary combinations. So first look at where is Saturn placed in your chart. All right. Wherever Saturn is placed in your chart, you have pending karma in that house. Okay, it's very interesting, very easy way to read. Now, when I say pending karma, you can refer to a video I've made about karma. I've defined different kinds of karma when I'm talking about what karma. There is something called as a Sanchit karma and prarabdha karma. All right, I've explained that in detail. So you will find the link of that video in the description. So go through that. In our lives, we are here to do certain karma. We are here to accomplish certain pending karma. So in our life, we get multiple opportunities to finish those karmas. All right, and that is what Saturn does. Saturn will keep throwing opportunities. So you might be working for IT, but every now and again you get an opportunity to probably be a burger chef on the weekends, because your friends know that you make really good burgers and they say, hey, why don't you come and make burgers at my pop-up or help me out? All right. Or you might be a banker, but you play the piano really well. And someone that has heard you play the piano asks you to come and play. So, there are certain things that just comes your way. And it's, just easy for you to do those things, right? It's the same thing with instruments. A lot of people try very hard to learn certain instruments, but no matter how much they get trained, they are not able to play those instruments so well. And there are some people who can just pick up the guitar and just know how to play naturally without any lessons, right? It's just natural. So there is a possibility Saturn could be responsible for it, for the pending karma that you are supposed to accomplish in this lifetime. All right. So wherever Saturn sits, so if Saturn sits in your first house, okay, there is pending karma for your own self. Okay. Saturn sits in your seventh house. There is pending karma for your spouse or your business partners. All right. So in this video, we will talk more in detail about whether you should select a job or your kundali or your charts are better suited for business. So we will look at a few houses. So I'm going to open up a chart here. I'm going to open up a Scorpio chart. All right. Since most of the viewers are Scorpio for some reason. Okay. So in a Scorpio's chart, we will look at, and we can apply this for any chart, But again, every ascendant has certain fields which they are more inclined to because of the ascendant, right? So it is different for different ascendants, and please ask me questions if you're a certain ascendant and you want me to cover it. I'll be happy to. So let's look at few houses here. So for business, I'm going to give you some houses. Okay. So the first house is the first house. All right. Second one is the third house, and I'll explain all these houses. All right. And this is for business. First house, third house, seventh house, and the 10th house. Okay. To some extent the second house, but that's going to be too complicated. But I will explain these houses and I'll tell you why I am mentioning these 4 main houses. If you want to get into business, you should look at these 4 houses in your charts. Okay. Why? First house is this house of yourself. It's your body, it's your physical body, it's you. Okay. So usually the first house needs to be very strong. Okay. To be able to take decisions, to have your body supporting your ideas. So usually a strong ascendant is very important and seen to be a business owner, to be a successful business owner, not a failed business owner. Okay, we'll talk about failed business owner in a different video. All right. So this is about people who are confused about should they be working for other people or having their own business. First house should be very strong, which means if you're a Scorpio ascendant, your Mars should be in the third house. Why? Because it's exalted in the third house, in the sign of Capricorn. Or if Mars is in the first house itself, right? It's a very strong position for Mars, right? Mars is in Leo, all right? Very, very strong. Mars likes being in Leo. Also makes the person very aggressive. But it's a good position because Sun is a friendly planet for Mars, and Mars is very, very strong in the 10th house. You know, Leo sits in the 10th house. Right, super strong there. We'll also look at the 7th house, because 7th house is the house of business, your partnership. Any partnership that you make is seen from the 7th house, including your spouse. That's also some kind of a partnership. Your business partners are seen from the 7th house. So you need a strong 7th house. All right. If 7th house is debilitated, I don't suggest people to get into partnerships in business. All right. So 7th house should be strong. So for example, if Venus sits in the 7th house, it's a strong 7th house. Or if Moon sits in the 7th house, Moon is exalted there. You can do a business partnership with your mom, all right, or your spouse, and have business partners, get into food and beverages. You could do really well. All right. Why do we look at the third house now? Right. First house is you. 7th house is your partnership. Right. A question must be arising. Why do we look at the third house for business? So why we look at the third house for business is because third house is the house of courage and willpower, right? Third house is a house that gets better with time, which means if your third house is exalted, you may not get good results of the third house, but when you're 45, 50 years old, you'll see the third house is giving you good results, all right? Because this is the house of willpower and courage of a person. So if Mars is exalted, like for example, look at the Scorpio ascendant. You see the Lagna Lord is Mars for Scorpio, or Mars goes to the third house and gets exalted in the sign of Capricorn. All right. That's a very strong, this person, whoever has this setting will have a great willpower. And for business, what do you need? You need willpower. You need courage. You need to be prepared that, okay, I might book losses, but I'm not going to give up. You see most successful business people, they might have started with something really small, right? And then became very, very successful because they never gave up, right? Jeff Bezos is one of them, right? Started really small. The owner of KFC, I think he started his business after he was 60 years old, all right? So you need great willpower. You need a very strong first house. You need a strong 7th house. You need to look at Saturn. So all these houses will not make sense if your Saturn is debilitated, or if your Saturn is sitting in the 6th, 8th, or the 12th house. These are not very good houses as per Vedic astrology. So if your Saturn is in these houses, then most probably you should be looking at being employed by someone or working for a company. Now, I'm not saying bad things for people who don't own their own businesses. I'm just saying the planetary positions, Saturn needs to be strong. So if you have an exalted Saturn, okay, for Scorpio ascendant, Saturn exalts in their 12th house, right? So they could be in multinational, they could own multinational companies or have something to do with foreign lands. They could own hospitals. They could do business to do with the 12th house realm, right? They could be into occult. They could be into hospitals. They could be selling medical equipment, right? If Saturn for Scorpio ascendants is in the 12th house, which is exalted, all right? So remember the things I told you. First house, third house, seventh house. Your 10th house needs to be strong, obviously, because 10th house is the career. If you want to know more about the 10th house, I have made a separate video about the 10th house and planets in 10th house. I will put the link in the description. You can check it out. It's in the same series of career in Vedic astrology. Now for jobs, all right? How do you know that you will be more successful in the job or being employed instead of starting your own business or doing your own business? We have to look at the 6th house. 6th house is what signifies the job, okay, whether you'll be employed or not. Okay, if your 6th house is stronger than your 1st house and 7th house, all right, stronger, what is stronger? You must understand what is stronger. For example, your Mars goes to, in Scorpio ascendant, Mars goes to 6th house. So Mars is in Aries, it's very strong there, right? So you should be looking at a profession like law or something to do with the 6th house. You could be a loan officer, right? You could be a cop. You could be working for the government, right? You could be a detective, right? Because Scorpio ascendants could be doing stuff which are hidden. It's the Scorpio energy. So like a detective or a secret service is a proper Scorpio profession. Research work, right? If Sun comes to the 6th house, or the 6th house is strong. So basically we'll look at the Lord of 6th house. Okay, if it's a Leo ascendant, we'll look at the Lord of 6th house, which is Saturn. Where is Saturn sitting? All right, applies for all the different charts. So you have to check the strength of 6th house. If your 6th house is strong and stronger than your 7th and your 1st house and your 10th house and your 3rd house, you should look at being employed and working for someone. If your Saturn is very well placed in your chart, all right, if your Saturn is in the Kendra and Trikona, you know what are Kendra and Trikona houses? It's 1, 4, 5, 7, 9 and 10th house. If your Saturn is in these houses and it's in a good sign and it's strong, it's not getting aspected by Rahu or Ketu or any of the malefic planets, then it's a good sign. If your Lagna Lord is very strong, if your Lagna Lord is not getting aspected by a bad Saturn, okay, or it's in conjunction with a bad Saturn, all right, which means if Saturn is in the 6th house, 8th house and 12th house, and it's been aspect, I know it sounds a bit complicated. If your Saturn is in the 6th house, 8th house and the 12th house, and it is aspecting your Lagna Lord, or it is conjunction with your Lagna Lord, most likely you should be, these people are employed and working for other people for a very, very long time, all right. If Saturn is in your 1st house alone, or Saturn is and it's not strong, and if you're not a Libra ascendant, if you're a Libra ascendant and you have Saturn in the 1st house, and if you have a cluster of planets in the 1st house, you should definitely be a business owner. If you have a 3-4 planet conjunction in the 1st house and they're not malefic or functional malefics for you, you should look at being a business owner and not, you will never find peace working for other people. Even if I've noticed if Sun is there in the 1st house, people do not like working for other people, and because of the Leo's energy and Sun's energy, Sun is the king. The king doesn't like working for people. So any planet that sits in your 1st house becomes very strong because you have the traits of that planet. So if you have a cluster of planets, I've seen some charts with people having a 5 planet conjunction in the 1st house, and they're all business owners, right? They don't like working for anyone else. If they've tried working, but they have not been able to work for after a month or 2 months or 3 months. Now the question arises when people also ask, can I do both? Yes, you can. Absolutely. For example, Scorpio ascendant. All right. Let's consider your Mars is in the sixth house, okay, which makes the Mars very strong. All right. So your Mars becomes strong, and then you have a strong seventh house. Let's consider Moon is in the seventh house. All right. And then you have Sun in the 10th house. All right. So that makes a person, there are people, like for example, I've done a lot of things in life. I have worked and I have had businesses, multiple, and I have multiple sources of career and multiple careers. So there are people who do both. So there are charts where you can see both at the same time. Can you do both? Yes, you can, absolutely. All right. There are people who have a job and they are running businesses. People who have worked for 15 years and then ran businesses. So you need to see the strength of if your sixth house is strong and your seventh house is strong and your first house is strong, you can do both the things at the same time. So there is no basic principle that you should do. You should, your chart is only good for one or you're not good for the other. But in most charts, you would see that if Saturn is weak and it is, and your seventh house has Rahu's not always bad, by the way, or a malefic is sitting in your seventh house, or your Lagna Lord has been aspected by Saturn, debilitated Saturn, and is afflicted. Your third house is weak. Your third house is debilitated. Most people with a weak third house are not able to succeed in business, because usually to start your own business, you need a lot of willpower and courage, and they are not able to do that. All right. So the third house needs to be very strong, because willpower and courage is one of the key. The risk-taking factor, all right, is very important. So that's all I want to say in this video. I'm going to make a couple of more because this is such a big topic. I want to talk about Rahu and some other planets, but this was more about Saturn, because Saturn is the Karaka for employment and business. It's your karma. So Saturn is a karmic planet. So we have to talk about Saturn when it comes to your job and your business. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer your questions. Please drop your questions in the comments, and I will try my best to answer your questions. Thank you very much for your time. Talk to you soon.